What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. How is everybody doing? It's still the festive period, I guess, so I can still say happy holidays. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you've all had a good couple of days. Still digesting that result, really. Still digesting that result against Newcastle. That performance, poor performance. Ugh. Yes, it was not good, wasn't it? And I've certainly got some feelings. I've got some stuff I want to get off my chest when it comes to Manchester United, when it comes to that Newcastle performance, when it comes to some of the stories that have come out over the last sort of 24 hours or so. There's a lot to talk about. We're also going to talk about the press conference. The press conference for Ralf Rangnick previewing this match against Burnley at Old Trafford tomorrow was actually conducted after the Newcastle game on Monday. It's one of those ones where you've got a game, then you've got a game a couple of days later. So they do the press conference after the first game, and essentially the press conference lasted 3 minutes. There was 3 minutes. There was like 3 questions. That was about it. It was embargoed until 1:30 p.m. Today, so I got all the quotes down. We're going to talk about what Ralf Rangnick said. We're going to talk a bit about some of the stories that have come out over the last 24 hours or so. We're going to do a bit of a preview as well for the game tomorrow against Burnley at Old Trafford. So there's plenty to get into, as always as well. Let me know where you're watching from. Smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. It's it's a strange time. It's a strange time for Manchester United, isn't it? But the GOAT says, big up, Owen. JK says, happy holidays, Owen. Happy holidays to you, JK. Chad says, big up, Owen. Raz says, afternoon, big up, Owen. A lot of big ups. I enjoy it as always. So let's get into this 3-minute press conference. Like I said, it was very, very short. And it's frustrating, I suppose, when these press conferences are done a couple of days prior. Given everything that's come out in the last sort of day or so, there would have been plenty of questions, really sort of probing questions to ask Ralf Rangnick. I suppose that will have to wait until after the game tomorrow. But the first question was from Simon Stone, and he asked, there's been a strange few weeks with matches being postponed, but you've had plenty of time now, I guess, on the training pitch, somewhat. Do you think you've made as much progress as you would have liked to have done in your short period of time here as manager? And this is what Ralf Rangnick said, quote, "Of course not. I mean, every coach, every ambitious coach, there's no difference between other coaches and myself in that, wants to take faster steps and larger steps forward. But in order to do that, you need to be able to train. And as you know, we had to close Carrington for 4 days. Before that, we had 8 or 9 field players in training directly after the Norwich game, and they only came back in small bits and pieces. On the other hand, in those 2 or 3 training sessions, the team looked good. It was, in Monday's game, a negative surprise, the way we played with regard to game speed, tempo and physicality, which is an interesting point because when he started off that response, this was sort of my reaction when he goes, have you made as much progress as you would have liked? And he goes, of course not. I'm like, yes, correct. And then when he went, but you need to be able to train, I'm like, here we go. Let's not get into excuses territory here. I don't want to be getting into that. But then, like he said, but we did train. We did have some training sessions with pretty much everyone there, apart from Paul Pogba. They were good training sessions, so I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was on the pitch against Newcastle. As he mentioned, it was a negative surprise, a really negative surprise. I agree, Ralf. It was a negative surprise, but it was a surprise that went on and on and on and on and on. And I went, what is this? What is this? It was awful. It was beyond bad. And I was thinking about it as well. I'm already going off tangents, but you know me when it comes to press conferences. I was thinking about this, like, for me, the performance against Newcastle genuinely is up there with the performance against Liverpool and Man City. The reason I say that is because if we had played like we played against Newcastle, against Liverpool, Man City, we would have lost 5-0, 6-0. Again, we would have, like we did against Liverpool. We would have got absolutely battered, like we did against Man City. Had we been playing anyone else but Newcastle on Monday, we would have got annihilated. We were that bad. As he mentioned, a negative surprise. And I spoke about this in the full view after the game. I spoke about it on the match view during the game, that what Ralf Rangnick was watching on the touchline, it can't be what he's been doing in training. It can't. He must look at this and like, we have spent hours on team shape, on pressing, on video analysis. We've got new coaches in. We've done this. We've done that. And that just isn't it. That just is not it. And it speaks to maybe a larger issue at Manchester United. We'll talk about that a bit later on once we get into the preview. But Again, just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous when I think about that performance. And like I said, it just gets me angry. It makes me angry because it's just so poor. So I think it's an interesting one. It certainly is refreshing still. I mean, I still enjoy the Rangnick press conferences, and I think it is refreshing that he's looking at that performance and going, no, that isn't what I wanted. That isn't what I intended. That isn't what we planned. I don't know what that is. And maybe it needs to be a bit of a reality check there. But again, we will talk about that once we get into the preview. And I'm going to do my very best here, guys. So you'll have to indulge me. I'm going to do my very best to not rant too much, depending on where you're from. Rant too much until maybe the second half once we get into the preview. I'm already having to pull myself back. I really am. Chad Farron says, only 4 likes and 164 watching. Come on, mates, hit the button. We're actually on 41. But we've got nearly 300 people watching and only 41 likes. Come on, we've got to up it. We've got to up those levels, guys. We've got to pump up those numbers. I'll start smacking my chest like Matthew McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street. If you get the reference, tremendous. So the next question was from Jordan Davis and asked a good question, actually, about Raphael Varane and Harry Maguire. He said, Varane and Maguire came in for criticism against Newcastle. Of course, we're up against Burnley next. Are you confident, Ralf, that they can stand up to the physical pressure? And is their partnership a partnership that can work for Manchester United going forward? Can it develop into something? This is what Rangnick had to say. He said, quote, Raphael hasn't played for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and even before the Tottenham game, he was injured. So in the total of the last 3 months, he hasn't played that many games. Our problem against Newcastle was that we allowed too many transitional moments. And this is not only a problem of the centre-backs, it's a problem of the whole team, and it starts up front. You can speak about the role of the number 10 in that kind of formation. So I don't think it makes sense to speak about the individual performance of players. We need to get better as a team. So he is just ultimately there demanding more. He's demanding more. He mentioned there, it wasn't in the quote, but he mentioned there also that he thought that, yes, Varane made a mistake for the goal. He thought, apart from that, he was okay. He said the same about Maguire. He said was okay, not outstanding. And in fairness, I mean, it is something that probably does require more in-depth discussion, and I would love to hear more. He's never going to come out, I don't think, and say Harry Maguire's shit or anything like that. He's not. But it's a massive issue. That centre-back position is a massive issue. Look, Varane wasn't good against Newcastle, but I think you can chalk that up to at least some kind of lack of match rhythm, lack of match fitness, as Rangnick points out. It's not as if he's just been injured for this 5 or 6 week period, but he's playing loads of games before. He wasn't. He came back from injury for that Spurs game, and then he got injured on international duty. So he hasn't played for a while. So I think you can chalk that up to that. Harry Maguire, you have to be honest up front. He was terrible. He was terrible against Newcastle. He was beyond poor, and he's been beyond poor all season. It's not even a case now, I think, of a discussion when it comes to Harry Maguire. It's not even a case of, is this guy good enough to be Manchester United captain? It's a case of, is this guy even good enough to be playing for Manchester United, let alone the captain and starting every single week? You have to ask yourself, would Harry Maguire get in to be a centre-back for any of the top 6 sides right now? I don't know if he would. I don't know what. Certainly not those top 3 teams, the Cities, the Liverpools and the Chelseas. He just wouldn't. And that's because maybe he's just not at that level. Well, he isn't. He isn't at that level. I mean, we're passing out from the back. He looks terrified once the ball comes to his feet. He's taken 7 touches. He's panicking. There's no pressure, little to no pressure on him. And he's still panicking and stressing what would happen if someone actually pressed him. So it certainly is a discussion that needs to be had at this point. Again, it's almost bigger. It's bigger than being the captain, isn't it, at this point? Should he even be playing at all? And I think it's a massive problem for Manchester United. I think it's interesting that he points out there, and I think it's worth pointing out, as Rangnick said, when talking about, our poor performance against Newcastle. Was it just a centre-back thing? No, it wasn't. Everyone was bad. Everyone was bad, apart from De Gea and Cavani when he came on. Apart from that, some people might say certain people played okay and all that kind of stuff, but I think collectively we were shocking. Absolutely shocking. And he's right, Rangnick. That's a team issue, and it's a mentality issue. And again, we're going to touch on it as we go on, but that's the problem at Manchester United. There is a severe mentality issue and a severe, what it would appear to be, attitude issue at the club. And as Rangnick says, we need to get better as a team. We can start talking about individual players if we're at least playing half decent. If we're at least playing half decent, but there's one person or two people that are letting us down, maybe that's when we can focus on individuals. But as of right now, you can just point at the entire group and say it's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough. And we need to get better as a team, and he will be letting them know that. Like I said in the first thing he said there in the press conference, he knows. He absolutely knows. He's not especially coming out going, oh, well, I thought we did well, unlucky, fine margins and stuff like that. He's like, no, it's shocking. It really is shocking. So, yeah, the centre-back thing, look, we'll get onto team selection, who I'd like to start alongside Varane against Burnley, but I think we both know who is going to start. Let's have a look at what the free seats are saying. As you know, I'm our president of the free seats. Philip says, bad habits die hard. It shall get worse before it gets better. Those overrated, overpaid, spoiled brats must be shipped out in wholesale. There is certainly a lot of people talking on social media about being frustrated with the players, isn't it? Absolutely. Craig Smith says, the same players who complained under Jose that he was too strict. Well, again, I've got some thoughts on the players and all that kind of stuff. Star-Lord says, Star-Lord as well, Guardians of the Galaxy, love it. Flex would have no idea the reference, but with this, by the way. Says, players crying because they actually got to work and it's not high fives and vibes no more. Again, we will touch on this. Because I think a lot of people will have the same opinions here. The final question was from Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic. Mentioned about Edinson Cavani coming on against Newcastle. He said that to Rangnick, it was the first time you were able to select Edinson Cavani. Is he ready to be fit for the remainder of the season? Could he start against Burnley tomorrow? This is what Rangnick said, quote, in the last 2 days, I was considering to play him from the start against Newcastle. I spoke with him yesterday and the day before yesterday, and he didn't feel comfortable playing from the beginning because he didn't know how fit he really was. So that's kind of the answer as to why Cavani didn't start. I'd hoped going into the Newcastle game that Cavani would start. He didn't, which was frustrating. But I mentioned that only a couple of players can really could have held their heads high after the Newcastle game. One's De Gea, because superb saves. Again, there's been a lot of talk about Dean Henderson right now. What, you're going to drop David De Gea? He's been our player of the season. 2, the other player would be Edinson Cavani, because it came on, and I think that's why we have an attachment to Edinson Cavani, and I think that's why a lot of people are reluctant to see him go in January, and why he's almost become a cult figure quite quickly at Man United, is because he tries, and it speaks volumes to the issues that United have at this point, that we like someone because they try. How low are those standards? How far have those standards dropped that we like Edinson Cavani because he tries hard, and he actually, you can see him. I hate to say passion and desire, but he does have passion for the club. He has passion to win, and not the kind of passion of I'm going to flail my arms and get frustrated. It's no, we keep going. It means something to him. To play for Manchester United means something to him. It's not just good enough being a Manchester United player and the trimmings that come with it. No, it means something. And when he comes on, he does actually show something, some actual grit to want to win the game. And he's trying to pick up his teammates. All that kind of stuff. That's why we like Edinson Cavani. That's why you want to see him start from the start. And because he's got actual quality. He's not going to back down to anyone. That's why we like him. So hopefully he will start against Burnley. I think he will. But the problem is kind of what they say in the question. Is he going to stay fit for the remainder of the season? I'm talking Caesar. Season? No, he's not. He won't. And I'm not having premonitions or anything like that. It's just a case of his injury record speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? I would be floored if Edinson Cavani did not pick up some kind of knock at some point this season for the remainder of the year. If he plays the next 5 or 6 months for Man United, give him a contract. But he won't, which is frustrating. So that was the press conference. Like I said, nothing really too much to really write home about when it comes to that. Again, it's at least somewhat refreshing that Rangnick's a bit like, no, it was crap. It was crap, and we need to do more, and we should be seeing more. But let me know your predicted starting 11 for the game. Again, we're going to get into the preview now, and there is quite a lot that I do want to talk about. For instance, Patrick says, Rashford needs benching, and Sancho and Cavani need to start. I agree. Ayush says, I can't believe people think we would play better football without Bruno. We're as good as Burnley without Bruno. Bruno's an interesting topic. Right now. Of course, he's not going to play against Burnley tomorrow because he's suspended. So, yes, let's get into the preview for this game. So, after the disappointing result against Newcastle, I did see some people, I don't want to say turning on Rangnick, but I saw some people already beginning to doubt him, which in my opinion I think is kind of crazy. I mean, he might prove to be not the right guy in terms of the manager, and he's an interim for a reason, right? And if it doesn't work out, he's just got to go upstairs into the boardroom. He's not going to be the manager next season. That's kind of the point of having an interim, I guess. But to already be saying, this guy's not the right guy, he's terrible, that kind of stuff, it's crazy. It's crazy. But like any other manager, he will live and die by his decisions and choices. Just as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did, just as every other manager does. And come the end of the season, he will be judged, just as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was judged at the end of his tenure. That's what will happen. The problem at Manchester United right now, in my opinion, it's bigger than the manager, interim or permanent. It's bigger than the coaches. I think at this point, we really need to start looking at these players. We really do need to start looking at these players. Are they actually good enough to play for Manchester United? Do they want to play for Manchester United? Do they have that grit and determination and the mentality required to be a Manchester United player? Not just be a Man United player, a successful Manchester United player, a winning Manchester United player. Do they have it up there that they actually want to be something great? Because in the last couple of days, we've been hearing stories that frankly, as a Manchester United fan, as someone that's been a Manchester United fan since they came out of the womb, practically, really, really upset me and frustrate me. So this was one of the stories I saw, and you would have seen it on social media. It was from Chris Wheeler of the Daily Mail, who said, quote, "The Manchester United players are struggling to adjust to Ralf Rangnick's later training sessions and left in the dark at 5 p.m. on Tuesday." Oh, guys, they left in the dark? Oh, come on. Come on. And again, I get it. Stories, journalism, you can't believe everything you read. You can't. And I understand that. But when you see stuff like that, like with every story, right, there are some stories that are complete fabrication. I get that. But some stories, there is at least an element of truth. There is something there that they have expanded on. So even if it's just the beginning of they've struggled to adjust to Rangnick's late training sessions, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Maybe the bit at the end when it's left at the dark at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, maybe that's just for effect. But even that beginning part there is outrageous. If you're struggling to adapt to Rangnick's training sessions because they're later on in the day, what does that say about your character? What does that say? You know, anyone, myself, probably all of you watching would dream to be a professional footballer, let alone play for Manchester United, and you couldn't pay me, you know, I'd do it for free. I'd do it now. I'd do it any time of the day. So and if you're saying I can't adjust to his training sessions, what does that say about you? Maybe that says you're not good enough. I can't adjust. Why? Because I can't adapt and I'm not good enough. What does that say? Now, following up from that, it also said the mood at Carrington is said to be very low and there are concerns over dressing room cliques and they have not been helped by an upgrade to the canteen that has seen 6 4-seater booths installed. My head nearly exploded when I saw that. Are you kidding me? What is this? What is this? Is this Manchester United one of the biggest football teams in the world, one of the greatest football teams ever, or is this, is this Mean Girls? Are we gonna have Lindsay Lohan in there? Oh, was it Wednesdays we wear pink in this little 4-person booth? That's what we're really worried about. You're worried about the canteen. I'm worried about the cliques here because I'm not gonna be able to sit with my mates, or they're gonna sit on their own. Seriously? Come on. At the end of the day, it's a workplace. It's a job, and you're complaining about 4-seater booths. Again, what is this? What is this? Is it Mean Girls? Is it Saved by the Bell? Or is it any like high school drama you've ever seen? Is it Grange Hill? Come on. It's madness. That is absolute madness. And again, might not be true. And you have to sort of throw that out there when it comes to any story, when it comes to journalists. But we hear this all the time. We hear this all the time. Now, I don't want to be that guy that talks about money or wages and says, well, they shouldn't have feelings because they're paid X, Y, Z. Yeah, fine. But if those stories are true, even if there's an element of truth to those stories, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There is clearly what appears to be an attitude problem. It doesn't appear to be. Just look at the performances. There's a mentality problem. And that mentality problem, let's be honest here, guys, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. This mentality problem has been at Man United for a long, long time. I mean, we almost get in trouble, don't we? We get in trouble as Man United fans and we get sort of ridiculed by some people because we talk about the glory days, right? We talk about the glory days of Sir Alex Ferguson and bring back Roy Keane and Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo in his peak and Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes and Cantona, etc., etc., etc. And we always say, will they ever come back? Are we ever going to see Man United be dominant like that ever again? And it's doubtful. And the reason it's doubtful isn't because the quality of players differed. The reason it's doubtful is because the mentality isn't there anymore. The standards have dropped massively. And again, I'm not saying any surprise here. I'm not saying any shock. But we're looking at players that just appear to be pampered, protected, and have a clear lack of mentality. Those players I mentioned, if it was Giggs or if it was Cantona, or if it was Roy Keane, Sir Alex Ferguson as the manager, not winning the title alone was seen as failure. And I get it, times have changed, things have changed, and other clubs have risen up, and maybe it's not our time right now, and the standards have dropped, and we have to move on. But we can't move on as a club, we can't move on and get back to having these high standards when the mentality is right now just, we're not even content, not just for top 4, but they're just content to be Man United players, and the trimmings and celebrity and fame that comes with it. I play for Man United. I play for Man United, that's it. No, you have to earn that. You have to earn the shirt. You have to earn the badge. It's not one thing. It's one thing to get there and actually get the shirt on your back. It's another thing to stay there, elevate yourself, improve yourself. And that's why I say the mentality just isn't there. The mentality isn't there. We saw it against Norwich and Newcastle. We saw it. They showed up and they thought, especially at St James's Park, we'll win. Why? Because we're Man United. We'll show up and they're just not as good as us. We'll win. We're Man United. I'm an international player. I've won things in the past, not much Man United, but for my country. So yeah, I'll be fine. We'll beat them. No, it doesn't work like that. And maybe that's why they liked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Maybe that's why they were sad to see him go. Obviously, he's a club legend and he's a nice guy, he's a likable guy. They liked him. But why did they like him? Because he let them do what they want. The inmates around the asylum there, you do what you want. It's fine. I'm not going to be too heavy on you because I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here, FC. And now you're saying you're struggling to adapt to training sessions by Ralf Rangnick? What, because they're later on in the day, or they're too hard, or they're tactically too far for you? Because you're not good enough? You're saying you're not good enough? Or because they're later on in the day and that hurt your precious schedule? Time. My time. My time is so precious. And now they're saying morale is low because there's booths put in the upgraded canteen where, by the way, they make anything you want to eat for you. You're pampered. Are we being serious here? Because it laughs in the face of football fans is what it does. And I don't want to sound like Roy Keane, and I don't want to be here ranting and raving, but do your job. Your job is to win and play football. I think anyone, like I said, anyone watching this, anyone listening to this, anyone that watches Man United play would do it for free. It's not even about the money. It's about, again, mentality. It's about wanting to win, and it's constant. These leaks, these moans, these groans. And maybe it's because we're not fans of City or Liverpool or even Chelsea. But we don't see that from those clubs. We don't. Because, again, there's a mentality of we've got to get on with it. Because my focus is to win things. It's not my focus about canteens or the training's too hard or too late. It's not about that. It's not about that. Chelsea used to be that club, right? In the 2000s, yes, they were winning stuff, but all the nonsense used to come out from their player power, Frank Lampard, John Terry. You don't hear that anymore. Why? Because they've got a winning mentality. Their focus is on winning things, winning the Champions League, winning the league. Poor performances from United, and then suddenly, training's tough, or the canteen, or there's been too much time off because of COVID. Every other club is going through that right now. Every club is going through that right now. It's always someone else's fault. Always someone else's fault. Never a bit of accountability. Heaven forbid we have some accountability here. And if all you've got after you scrape a draw against Newcastle is excuses, you really need to have a look at yourself. You really need to have a look at yourself. If you draw at St James's Park and then you go, well, training's hard and it's late and we had some time off and all this and that, come on. Newcastle, they're not even playing their next game because they've got COVID and so many injuries. That was a threadbare Newcastle. They battered us. Always someone else's fault. Always someone else's fault. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Right. Breathe. It's just... I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. Fat Thoughts says the media have built up petty matters because controversy brings cash. So I would take it with a pinch of salt. At the same time, the spoiled brats can move on if they think they're bigger than the club. Look, the media will do what the media does, Fat Thought, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I will say is though that it's constant. It's constant and it's always something. We've seen it all season. We have seen it for years at this point. Things go bad, and I know the press capitalizes on it, but it's always something. It's always something. Whether it's training, whether it's the canteen, whether it's clicks, whether it's this, whether it's that. And ultimately, it comes down to the players. That's ultimately what it comes down to. That's it. And it's at this point, it's beyond frustrating. It's beyond frustrating because clearly there's big issues, and of course there are big issues at Man United. Of course there are clear issues at boardroom level, and there are issues when it comes to the owners and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, when the players just obviously just lack mentality. And that's it. They obviously just lack mentality. Machiavelli says only Conte could have saved you. Again, that's frustrating, isn't it? We had a guy. He's made Spurs run. They were 20th in the league when it came to running. Now they're first. He did that in like 2 months. But no, we don't want to have a guy that could upset the apple cart because, again, these players are incredibly precious. Incredibly precious. And when is enough when it comes to that? And don't get me wrong, continue to support the team, continue to support the club. I hope that there'll be 78,000 people there at Old Trafford tomorrow, and I hope you cheer on all the players to the final minute because that's what we do as Manchester United fans. But I hope they reward you for their support, for the support that you give them. I do. I hope they actually, want to actually bother to show up and again have this mentality of we don't just deserve to beat Burnley at home because we're playing Burnley at home. I hope they want to make a statement. I want to, hold your head up, have some standards. This is what always frustrates me now with like modern day football is if I played terrible, if I played for Man United or whatever side it was, if I played terrible, I couldn't face going on like social media or whatever afterwards. I couldn't. I'd be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed. And it's just, again, these lack of standards and lack of mentality. It's incredibly frustrating. But getting on to the game, Burnley tomorrow. It's a late kickoff. It's 8:15 over here in the UK time, so 8:15. It's the second game in 4 days. Man United do have some people missing from the game. Of course, Victor Lindelof was ruled out of the trip to Newcastle earlier on in the week due to a positive COVID test, so he's still missing. Paul Pogba, of course, is still missing out due to that thigh problem, which is keeping him sidelined. Furthermore, as well, though, it's not just Lindelof and Pogba that are missing against Burnley. Bruno Fernandes will also be unavailable for the match due to serving a one-match suspension after collecting his 5th yellow card of the Premier League season against Newcastle on Monday. So no Bruno Fernandes. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, Bruno Fernandes is something to talk about. Probably get more in depth with it at another point. There is a Flex and KG show coming today, by the way, as well. It comes at 6 p.m. UK time, so I'm sure they'll talk about that as well. And I'm sure they'll just continue what I was saying. But Bruno missing, it might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world. Just for him, get him out of the spotlight a little bit. He's been in poor form. Everyone has. Realistically, since that opening game of the season, he just hasn't been at it. And against Newcastle Monday, he was poor. He gave the ball away more than any other player in the side. It was the most, in general, we had given the ball away at all this season. It was insane how many times we gave the ball away, whether it was overhit, underhit passes. It was just poor. It was poor. And I don't think Bruno missing the game was necessarily the worst thing in the world for him. Obviously, Man United without Bruno Fernandes does make us a weaker team, but at this point, he just hasn't been playing well, and he maybe needs some time out of the side. Arguably, his best recent performance is when he came off the bench anyway. So him being out the side and someone else maybe getting a chance isn't the worst thing in the world at all. And if anything, it's kind of made Rangnick's decision a bit easier there because he's been facing calls to drop Bruno anyway. So what starting 11 are we going to be looking at here? Well, let me know what you think, of course, in the free seats. It depends to me what formation Rangnick plays. Of course, we've seen him do the 4-2-2-2. We've seen him do that. It's a case now, is he going to stick to it? Is he going to stick to this 4-2-2-2, or is he going to move on to something different? Because, frankly, the 4-2-2-2, I'm just not sure is working. I'm not sure it's working. Now, why isn't it working? Is it not working because it takes time to implement it? Maybe. Is it not working because these players aren't tactically astute enough to actually carry it out successfully? Maybe as well. Maybe it's a bit of both. So maybe it requires Rangnick to change something and move to a different formation. We'll touch on that in a second. If he does stick to the 4-2-2-2, I think it'll be De Gea in goal. I think Dalot will stay at right back. He struggled against Saint-Maximin. I think Cam made a good point on the full view that I think quite a few fullbacks in the Premier League, if they were against Saint-Maximin one-on-one for the entirety of the game, they would struggle as well. You have to actively manage that with either the player in front of you or your centre-back coming across to help you out. But he did okay. But no one did well. I think Varane will start again. This is the question, isn't it? It's a case of it will be Varane and Maguire. It will be. And again, I don't think it should be. I think at this point it's got way too far, frankly, at this point for me. Harry Maguire's performance against Newcastle was shambolic. It was. And again, I don't even think it's a case now of should this guy be Manchester United captain. It's a case of should this guy even be in the side at all? Is he even good enough to be a Man United player, let alone a captain? But it will be Varane and Maguire, again, as I always say, because it's political. I would prefer that it was Varane and Bailly. We know Bailly is in the squad. He was planning on flying out for the Africa Cup of Nations, but then he was told, Man United need you. And he was surprised. He was surprised. What? They need me? They haven't needed me all year. But so he's back. He's training with the squad. So we could see Varane and Bailly, but it's going to be Varane and Maguire. Which again, if it is the 4-2-2, for him, it's even more of like a piss take, isn't it? Because he's like, seriously, maybe fly back to sit on the bench? What a joke. So that does lend me to think maybe there might be something else going on there. So I think it will be Varane and Maguire. I think left back, we might see Luke Shaw come back in, I think. I think Tellez, was Tellez particularly bad against Newcastle? No, I wouldn't say he's one of the players that you would really point out, go, oh, he was terrible. But I just think we've seen, Shaw's not been good this season at all. Again, no one's been that good, but Shaw hasn't been good this season, and maybe his time out because of the concussions and maybe just a bit of a rest and, again, being taken out of the spotlight is a good thing. If we can get Luke Shaw back into form, of course, he's a massive asset to the side. So I think Luke Shaw might come back in. In terms of the 2 6s, it will be McTominay and Fred again, as I mentioned before. That is because, for better or for worse, we don't have any other 6s at the club that can do the role that Rangnick wants in the 4-2-2. We don't. You can't play Matic in that 6 role. He doesn't have the legs for it, which again will lead me to thinking we could move to something else. So it'll be McTominay and Fred. The 2 10s, without Bruno, I think if Van der Beek doesn't get a chance against Burnley, then he might, well, it doesn't really matter what he wants. If he wants to leave, he still might be told he's going to stay in January. But if he doesn't start, then it's a massive blow to him, massive blow. So I'm going to say Van der Beek gets a chance. I would hope that Sancho starts. Rashford needs to go on the bench. He was poor against Newcastle. He was lucky to start, frankly, against Newcastle. And he did not at all justify him starting because, again, he was poor. He was very poor. So I would go with Sancho and Van der Beek. 2 up front. I know Ronaldo was poor against Newcastle. And I know there's a bit of discussion about Ronaldo as to when he's like that, does it hurt Man United, etc. I get that Ronaldo shouldn't start every game, but it's just the goals he does bring, and who else would you rather have? So Ronaldo will start up front, and Cavani should start as well. When they have played with each other this season, they have scored goals and they do cause problems. Cavani's movement's unbelievable. Cavani could have had a hat-trick when he came on against Newcastle. So that's why I think if it's the 4-2-2, but I'm not necessarily totally convinced we'll see the 4-2-2, it must be said. I'm not totally sure. Mark Riley says KG can demand Rashford, Wan-Bissaka, etc. He won't get them. Well, of course, as I mentioned, there is going to be a Flex and KG show at 6 p.m. today, so I'm sure KG will have a lot to say about Wan-Bissaka, Rashford, etc. They're always dynamite, aren't they? They're always dynamite. They're always awesome. So be sure to watch that. Drake Josh says, the 4-2-2 isn't working because the midfield keeps giving the ball away, making us prone to the counter. With our fullback so high up, it makes ball retention more significant. Good point. Interesting point. But yes, if it's not going to be the 4-2-2, we could see something a little bit different. We kind of saw it towards the end of the Newcastle game. But reportedly, this came from Laurie Whitwell yesterday, Ralf Rangnick is not wedded to the 4-2-2 formation. He is open to moving to something else, such as a 3-4-1-2. So if we move to a back 3 and we had wing backs, it could look significantly different. And I think we could see that. And the reason I think we could see that is, why would you call back Eric Bailly? Why would you do that? Because it's going to sound crazy, obviously, but we do have other centre-backs available, even if it's Phil Jones, Mengi as well, could easily go into that. So why would you call Eric Bailly back if you're going to play just 2 centre-backs? It would imply he's thinking of playing 3 centre-backs. So I think we're going to see David De Gea. If it's the 3-4-1-2, I think it'll be De Gea, Varane, Maguire, and Bailly, which I'm not totally against. I think, to be honest with you, Varane in the middle of that and Maguire out to probably would be the right-hand side, the left-hand side. I think he played on the... What side did he play when they did the back 3 or back 5 against Spurs? I can't remember if it was the left-hand or right-hand side. But anyway, I think we'll see Varane, Maguire and Bailly. Then as the wing-backs, it gets interesting because, again, if we're playing wing-backs, it's definitely Dalot. So I think that one's not even up for the discussion. The left wing back, that's a bit more up for discussion. Again, I still think you would probably give it Shaw, probably, because I think Shaw will come in. But we know that Telles can be very effective as a wing back. If anything, he's better as a wing back than he is as your standard fullback. So that could be the reason that Telles starts. The interesting thing, though, there is if we do go with a 3-4-1-2, it does open up the possibility to not be playing McTominay and Fred, because you would maybe only need one ball winner in that midfield too, and you could have maybe a bit more of a deep line playmaker in those two there. So that could mean that we get Fred, and instead of McTominay, we get Fred and Van der Beek or something like that. That is a possibility. And I do think that's a more interesting kind of scenario because it does give us some form of creativity from those two sixes. That's the six that Van der Beek can play. Didn't do it very well against Young Boys, it must be said, but he can do that. He can do that. So that's interesting there as well. As far as who would be the 10, the lone 10, I think Sancho. Sancho can be a 10. And if he wants his 10 to be a lot more, pragmatic and drift out to the wing and drift out wide and come central as well, then Sancho's the perfect role for that. If anything, like I said before, I think Sancho's been sort of harshly treated over the last few games. I think since really the Watford game, Ollie's last game, he's been arguably one of our best players, if you take out De Gea. So him not coming off and not starting has been very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. So I would like to see Sancho start in that 10 position, and then you can still have the two strikers, still have Cavani and Ronaldo up front. I preferred that team purely because what we've seen of Man United in this 4-2-2 system so far, it just hasn't worked. And I don't think, and I hope certainly, Rangnick won't be stubborn to be like, it's going to work, it's just going to take time, it's just going to take time, it's just going to take time. I think in this infancy stages of his Manchester United interim managerial role, try something different. Try something different, because that 4-2-2 is tough to watch right now. And again, maybe it's a case of it will come eventually. Maybe it's a case of the players not being good enough. I don't know. But ultimately, what we need right now is results. We've got a great run of games. We can't afford to be drawing games because the 4-2-2 is taking time. We need results right now. We need something tangible. Because whilst the fixtures are great now, I don't know if you've seen some of the fixtures. I think it's like March, the beginning of March, they get very tough. They get very tough because that really bad run of fixtures we had prior to sort of Ollie getting sacked, that's essentially what we have in March again. We have Liverpool, Man City, Leicester, Chelsea, both legs against Atletico Madrid. They're in the space of like a few weeks. It's brutal. It's brutal. And we can't be going into those games being like, oh, if only we'd have not dropped silly points against the likes of Burnley and against the likes of Newcastle around Christmas time. We just can't afford to do that. So I'd like to see him go with the back three, just because I'm just not convinced at the moment by the 4-2-2. But look, if he goes with the 4-2-2 against Burnley and we win 3-0, then fair play. I just have yet to have seen that. I've yet to see that in this 4-2-2. And again, I don't necessarily put all of the blame on Rangnick there, put the blame on the players. Either they're not up to it, or just again, mentality issue, a massive mentality issue. So just in general for this Burnley game, look, we know it's going to be hard. We know exactly what Burnley are going to do. That's why I'm concerned, let's be honest, because they're going to do the low block. They're going to get 11 people behind the ball. They're going to make it difficult for us. They're going to play for set pieces. And some of the most frustrating times, I think, in these last few games for Manchester United, specifically against Norwich and Newcastle, we've never been good with the low block anyway. But when we've been passing it side to side so slowly, especially out from the back, especially with like Maguire and taking 500 touches on the ball and then passing it to McTominay or Fred, and they look for the forward pass, but it's not there, so they go sideways or backwards. Once the opposition team has everyone set up and they're behind the ball, we just look completely devoid of any ideas or any creativity. And then eventually we get frustrated and we go for a long ball. It goes out for a throw-in or a goal kick. So many times that happened against Newcastle. And if you thought that was bad, wait till you see Burnley. Because we know what they're going to do. We know they're going to do that times 10. They will play for a point or play for free when it comes to set pieces. And they'll be good at it. And even Burnley haven't been their Burnley selves this season. But still, they're going to make it tough for us. And I don't know. I just haven't seen any ability to beat that low block in the last few games. Now, I mentioned going into the Newcastle game, I said I expected performance. Frankly, I expected performance coming into this game. But I expected one of the last few games, and we haven't, and I didn't see it. Not just about me, but I expected the performance the last few games, and we haven't seen it. So maybe we have to change the word expect to hope. I hope to see a performance. I hope. I'd love to see these players have some pride, make a statement, and really, put these doubters to rest and put these critics to rest. But if I told you right now, guys, between me and you, no one else is watching this, between me and you, if I said that I'm confident, I'd be lying. I would. I'd be lying. Man United, look, it's Burnley at home. Manchester United should beat Burnley at home. On paper, it's lopsided. And it shouldn't even really be up for discussion. But I can't look past the last couple of performances and say I'm optimistic. I can't. If I had to be pushed and go with a prediction, I'd go for another 1-0. But if that's the way it's going, and it is 1-0, it'll be another tough watch. It'll be a real another tough watch. And I think that's the frustrating thing. That's the frustrating thing right now of United is, realistically, and I'll get you guys in now, what's your prediction for tomorrow? Scoreline prediction. How are you feeling going into that game? Are you feeling more optimistic than I? Which is up to you. What's your score prediction? Because for me, I really do want us to see us put in a performance. I do. But again, I'd be lying. I really would be lying. Mark Riley says 2-0. Auk says 2-1. King of the Indie says RB lying. Well, I'm looking forward to the next quiz. Splashnet says 1-1 draw, unfortunately. Zian says 4-0. Jordan says 2-1 Burnley. Feeling negative today. Let's try and cheer up Jordan. Joshua says draw all day. Zico says there is a revolt in the dressing room. I don't know if it's necessarily a revolt. I don't think there's any difference in the dressing room. I don't think there's any difference. I certainly don't think Rangnick's lost the dressing room or anything ridiculous like that. It's just, I think the players everyone's becoming wise to what's really going on at Man United, I think, at this point. Everyone's just starting to go, oh, now we found out what part of the problem is. David Lee's confident says 3-1 United. Splashnet says I think it's going to be another draw. Jordan says 2-1. Raz says, if I was a Burnley fan, I would see this game as an opportunity to get 3 points. I think we'll beat them 3-1. So a lot of people are saying that they think that United are going to win. I think ultimately we'll probably scrape through it. I think. Again, I could see it being another 1-0, maybe. But we haven't had a Rangnick game where we scored more than one goal. That's part of the problem as well. That was kind of the frustrating thing, wasn't it? When Newcastle went 1-up, because it was like, okay, we've got to be attacking now. We've got to see Man United actually, score more than one goal. we haven't seen it. So I think it'll be 1-0. But I think it'll be a tough watch. I really do. Unless, like I said, they've had the rocket up them and they go for something, actually show something in the game. But I'm not necessarily sure if we'll see that. Again, as I mentioned about Van der Beek, I do hope he starts. Not just because, the Van der Beek obsession, all that kind of stuff. You're obsessed with Van der Beek. Well, Bruno's out the side. So if he's ever going to get a chance, it would be tomorrow. And look, if he does, pressure's on him to take it. Make no mistake, if Van der Beek plays and we're still crap and he does nothing, then you would say, well, you did get an opportunity and you didn't take it, mate. So that's the situation. We got nearly 550 people watching, only 213 likes. Oh, I'll be getting calls from Josh. Oh, sorry, excuse me, Mike Phelan himself, who is still there as well, by the way. I'll be getting calls from him saying, oh, disgrace. I wish I had the soundboard and all that kind of stuff. You're an absolute disgrace. You're a cheat. Chris says, Owen, why are we not even pressing? We have the godfather of the gegenpress and we don't even do it. WTF. This is the thing, Chris. This is the thing. And this is why I say, and I think Rangnick kind of pointed to it in his press conference in his answers, he's set up the team to press. He's set up the team. He's done training for weeks at this point and days and done video analysis and had all of these people going, okay, so you press when the left back gets the ball, this triggers the press, you go here, you go that, you do that. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it. And that's the crazy thing. Balamar says, can't press if we have the ball. That's fair, but then once you don't have it, the aim is to win it back immediately, is it not? And we weren't doing that. We really weren't doing that. And again, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, after seeing some of these things come out in the last couple of days, I was furious. I was absolutely furious because to me, all the stuff when it's we're struggling to adapt to training sessions and the canteen stuff and clicks and all that stuff, that's just unacceptable. That's just unacceptable to me. We're talking elite level professional football. and we're talking about clicks, and we're talking about, struggling to adapt to late training sessions. It's just, that's madness. That is absolute madness. And I think it just, it screams people not being in touch with the real world, or not being in touch with the fans. And that's a really frustrating thing for me. But look, I don't want to end it on a negative note. So as I mentioned, my prediction tomorrow is to go for a 1-0 win. And that's going to be an entertaining game, isn't it? That's going to be an entertaining game. But yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 win. But hopefully it'll be something to celebrate as we go into the new year. Hopefully it will be something to celebrate to go in the new year. Look, guys, I've almost tired myself out after that rant. After that big rant, I feel good. When they say, you have to get things off your chest, you do feel better. You definitely do feel better. Once you get it off your chest, I feel better now. Now I'll feel good until I watch the game tomorrow. Then I'll be like, here we go again. But look, guys, as I mentioned, as always, smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Road to 100K. We will get there. 2022 is going to be a big year for United View. It's going to be a big year, and I'm very excited. Very privileged to be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in right now. As I mentioned, later on today, there will be a Flex and KG show. Normally it's on a Tuesday, but you're getting a special Wednesday one. How exciting is that? Special Wednesday Flex and KG show. It's going to be live on the channel at 6 p.m. So subscribe, and you won't miss a single thing. And it's going to be a fun one to watch. Anyway, guys, I'll speak to you again very soon. I'll speak to you before the end of the year. I was going to say Happy New Year, but I'll speak to you again before then because we've got the Burnley game tomorrow. So anyway, guys, look, I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace.